Good evening, everybody. This is Marty from Dawgs blog. Um, Tonight's report from November 7, 2018 on the Frank Carson ODELL trial. Um, as you probably know, I was not there this morning, had a little business to take care of, and Tom's report is now up, and we're titling today, The Attack of the Little People. We're not allowed to use the term dwarf or midget. We have to use the term little people, according to Judge Zuniga, and that's what we'll do. An interesting report by Tom this morning, and this afternoon, the judge was on the bench. She wanted everybody back at 1:15. She was on the bench at 1:19. And what they did was came back a little early. They got permission from Charlie ODELL to get his medical records, I believe it was from Memorial Hospital, on what had happened on the beating that he took sometime around November 6th or 7th. He was at the hospital on November 7th, I believe it was. This happened right after he got out of jail. The attorneys received those documents, and they took a little bit of time to go over them. She gave them about 45 minutes to read them over, and the jury came up just at 2:01 p.m. Charlie ODELL was on the stand. So Percy Martinez was doing cross, and he said his first meeting with his first beating that he took was on November 7th, 2006 or 7th, right after he got out of release from jail, by 7 people, including the little person. He was stabbed by the little person and hit by a car. And he said he'd been out of custody 2 weeks, but he said this happened right away, right after he got out of jail. I wasn't there this morning, so I might have missed a little bit in there. But he said he'd been out 2 weeks, and this had been an ongoing issue. He was knocked unconscious. They took his backpack and his cell phone. Again, he was stabbed by the little person. And then his brother had ran over from help, apparently by the trailer park, and came over to help him out. He was living in a camp area by the 7th East Bridge. There's actually like a trail along the Highway 99 overpass between 7th and 9th Street is what he said. His brother ran and got some help, and his brother came back with some friends. He said he just decided to take off walking before anybody got there, and he did not go to the hospital. He said his dog had his teeth knocked out by these people. He had a small pit bull, and the dog's teeth were knocked out by these same people. He didn't get the dog help either. About just a few minutes after the first beatdown, he was attacked again by the same people by where his camp was. But he left his dog with his girlfriend at the campsite he had left, and he came across these people again over on 7th Street or something like that. He only felt dizzy for a couple minutes. He walked down 7th Street to get some ice, and again attacked by the same people. He recognized the little person driving the car. He was calling him a dwarf and midget and stuff, and Judge Zuniga corrected everybody on that. It's little person. The little person was driving the car with 6 other people in it. He says he tried to fight back against the group of people, but the little person was just running around just while he was getting beat up by all these people. The little person was just running around. And this is the little person that stabbed him in the previous attack. He was asked if he was on methamphetamine at that time, and he said he was working every day, so no, he wasn't using meth. He was working at Central Valley Recycling. He said he worked every day except for that day. He didn't work. He was not working. After the first time he was attacked, he got stabbed. And the little person was running around and ran behind him and stabbed him. He got knocked down on the second time when he got beat down. He got knocked out the second time he got beat down. Again, the little person was running around. He didn't know if he was in the fetal position or what position he was in after he knocked out. He was knocked out. He said there was a lot of traffic on the street, which was 7th Street, but unknown how many cars there were. He says, I wasn't counting. No one stopped on 7th Street to help him, which is probably typical in that area, to tell you the truth. After the second beatdown, he had gone back to his camp. 3 or 4 days later, he was beat down again in the alley between 7th and 9th Street by the gas station, and that's where his camp was. He headed towards 9th Street from 7th, and he was jumped by 4 people again, and one was a little person again. And the little person said he needs to change his story. He did not recall the voice of the little person. Charlie ODELL said he did not ask what he was supposed to say or not say. Percy Martinez asked him if he was a witness for the defense at the time, and he said yes. He wasn't a witness for the prosecution at the time, as the defense had called him. And he said again he had gone down the path between 7th and 9th Street on the path from his camp. That's where his camp was. And he walked to a friend's house. He had cleaned up by the gas station, and he was unable to call because he didn't have a cell phone, and there was no pay phone at the gas station. He says there's no pay phones in Modesto anymore. He said he never asked people what they wanted, and about a week later, he was beaten in the same alley. I guess he really didn't want to move. The same alley as the last time, which is where his camp was. There was 4 people that started beating him, but there was no little person that time. He said they left him knocked out. He was knocked out for about 15 seconds. He got up, had a cigarette, and went to the camp back in the alley, and he never told anybody about the incident. He said the next beatdown was on November 6th or 7th, and the little person at the path at the same place. Guess he didn't want to move. The people came off of 9th Street. He saw the little person and he said he didn't turn around, try to go away, move the other direction, go across the street. He walked towards them. He said he'd rather, face whatever he had coming head on. If they're going to shoot him head on instead of in the back. Brave man. There was 5 people on November 6th or 7th. He walked right up to them, and they beat him with their hands, and they had no weapons. They rushed him and started swinging. He got knocked out again and went to a friend's house again. He called his niece, And he described that little person as between 3 and 4 feet tall. On the last occasion, that little person was 3 to 4 feet tall, and the little person had no weapon that he was aware of or noticed, and this time he had actually gone to a doctor. Judge Aniga saw something in the courtroom. I don't know what it was, and she called a sidebar. There was a few chuckles going on in the courtroom. There was a group of students in there also, a large group of students, and they were kind of enjoying the story. So he did go to the doctor, and the doctor's report that everybody had was from November 7th. The doctor, he told what happened, and he told the doctor he was beaten with brass knuckles. Now, that's what it said in the medical report. He does not recall saying that. He did not recall seeing anybody with brass knuckles. But he did tell the doctor that he was hit with brass knuckles. And when Percy asked him that, he said, yeah, I might have, yeah. He says it felt like brass knuckles. And he had fractures all over his face, is what he said. The fight lasted a very short time on November 6th or 7th. In an interview by Steve Jacobson, and I believe this interview was in June of 2017, he said that he was jumped 2 times in one day. He reread the transcript of that interview. But now says it began in July of 2017 because he said he didn't get out until the end of June. So the beatings began in July or something. He did not go to the doctor in the first beatdown. There apparently was a second interview with Steve Jacobson again in May of 2017. He said the incident occurred in the overpass by 9th Street. And he said, in the report, he said that there was 2 clean-cut, rather large, muscular, heavy-set, muscular Hispanic men were waiting at his camp for him. Again, he had to refresh with the transcript to recall that. And he says, yeah, that's what he told Steve Jacobson. There was a sidebar that was called, and the jury was sent out of the room at 1:45. So they were in there about 44 minutes. There was during that sidebar, Charlie ODELL kind of waved to his attorney to come over and talk to him. And so they had to check with the judge and all that stuff. But typically, an attorney is able to talk to his client that's on the stand. The defense objected. And the Judge Aniga overruled, and it come to find out through the bailiff, and it's what I saw. Charlie ODELL did call him over and want to talk to him, and he has every right to do that. During the sidebar, he wanted to do that. So Charlie ODELL was taken out of the courtroom after the jury was sent out, so he could go talk to his attorney, and Marlisa Ferreira represented to the court at this time that little person, Steve Jacobson, was able to establish it was a little person by the name of Jimmy Jackson. He's a documented gang member and is well known around Modesto. And he has many priors. Steve Jacobson found it in the house database of, I guess, the local talent. So, as you can imagine, this started another whirlwind of why Marlissa Ferrer all of a sudden was able to come up with a name. And what it come to find out later, that after the first break in the afternoon, which was from 1:15, about 1:15 to 2 o'clock, um, he had been given that name. Lou Wentz, Charlie Odell's lawyer, had been given that name by ODELL, and he gave it to Marlissa Ferreira. Well, she didn't say anything at that time, and then waited until later on to say after they'd done a check to see who this possibly could be. Now, Charlie Odell this morning testified that when the DA was doing direct, testified that he didn't know who this little person was, but now he's saying he did. Judge Aniga, after we took a break, after the break, Judge Aniga came out and said she met with Lou Wentz and Marlissa Ferreira in chambers. Charlie Odell wanted to talk to Marlissa Ferreira, and she said that she told him that she cannot talk to him, but he did reveal that it was Jimmy Jackson. It had been ID'd as a little person, and he's concerned about this Jimmy Jackson and the safety of his family, and that's why he actually did lie about knowing him earlier today, or early this morning. So Percy Martinez addressed the court and says now Charlie Odell is now saying on direct with the DA he didn't know who the little person is, but now he's admitting he did, so he lied on the stand. Marlissa Ferreira says she got the Jimmy Jackson name from Steve Jacobson, and after she was given a little clue in, I guess, by Lou Wentz, it's kind of confusing to me how the whole thing went. Percy Martinez argued if his testimony this morning was he didn't know who it was, and now he says he does, he has testified falsely. Now Charlie Odell has mentioned Jimmy's name, so that opens it up an area where they can go into about his truthfulness. Marlissa Ferreira was getting a little defensive, how she typically does, how Charlie Odell knew the name, and it was passed through the lawyer. And I tell you the truth, I think that's exactly what happened. That's the way it looks to me. Judge Zuniga said she could not know how the DA was revealed one way or another. And she was told by the lawyer. Lou Wentz told her. That's all there is to it. I saw Lou Wentz talking to Marlissa Ferreira during the second break this afternoon. It was a little bit of an extended conversation in the hallway outside, but again, it did appear that they were having a serious conversation about maybe Charlie Odell was worried about his family. I think that's a very good possibility. Attorney Hans argued that they're talking about some documentation that was turned over by the district attorney and a packet that goes way back, but nothing recent. And what they're talking about, it's a packet. It's similar to a rap sheet, but I think it's a district attorney's office packet, and it only went up to a certain date. And Hans was arguing that some of them go back to the Jim Brazelton days, and back in 2000 and things like that. So he was looking for an updated packet, and so they were kind of scrambling to get that done. There was major confusion in the courtroom. Judge Aniga doesn't have a clue what's going on as far as this is concerned, or anything else for that matter. And I wrote down long-winded conversation by all about Odell's, I guess I called it a rap sheet. I don't know what else to call it. and it's apparently not current or updated, so there was a lot of issues going on there, and they were trying to figure it out. Percy Martinez again requested the information verbatim that was revealed to Marlissa Ferreira through Lou Wentz, Charlie ODELL's lawyer, and says it was a little person's name after all was given. Lou Wentz actually addressed the court, got on the mic, and he said right after the lunch break, he actually, the break right after the lunch break, which was from like 1:15 to 2 o'clock to look at the paperwork, that's when he had told Marlissa Ferreira about it, about the name. His name, little person's name was Jimmy. So the jury was back up around 3:41. They don't seem to get much court time anymore. Percy Martinez was still doing cross. I asked about his testified earlier about the incident with the little person, and now he knows who that little person's name is. He was asked by the district, Marlissa Ferreira in direct, he said he didn't know the little person's name. And he says, yeah, I admit I lied. I was, and he says, I admit I lied. That's all. There's nothing else I can say. He says when he got out of jail, this is where the dates get confusing to me, because he's talking about all these beatdowns, and he didn't go to a hospital for several days, but he got released November 6th or 7th. It was like at midnight, so it was in the middle of the night. And the hospital paperwork said that he had gone in on November 7th. So there was a lot of confusion to me on these dates that he's talking about, the beatdowns and stuff, because he didn't go to the hospital for several days, but the hospital paperwork says November 7th. I know it's confusing. It's confusing to me. Said he admitted they lied. He also admitted that he told Steve Jacobson there was two large Hispanic men waiting at his camp when he got back to his camp. He was homeless and living in a tent in the camp in the alleyway, and those two Hispanic men were there waiting for him when he got back. There was one incident, he said, that was on the 6th, and there was one on the 7th. So I don't know. I really don't. I'm confused about this. I missed a little bit this morning, so I can't put it all together, but he's mixing up his dates a little bit. Now he's not sure what he told Steve Jacobson in the report. And on November 6th, he got out of jail and he went to his camp. There was no one there on the 7th, and he had gone back to his camp. He'd left and gone back or something, and those two Hispanic males were there. He says that may be the one that I went to the hospital. Again, he's not sure. And he never mentioned any little person to Steve Jacobson. So he's getting beat down by all these people. You got a little person running around. He said running around, and he got stabbed one time by this little person, and he says he has a scar from the stabbing. The two Hispanic males were thick and muscular, tall and husky. And he was asked. They asked him if his name was Wino, and he said that's his prison name, not his street name. And they asked him, so you in that Carson shit? That's exactly how he said it. Are you in that Carson shit? And now he said that was a hospital incident. Again, he's going back to the 7th because he's saying they were there on the 7th, I guess. He says his niece, and I'm not going to mention her name, drove him to the hospital. And there was objections about that too for some reason. I don't know. Led to a sidebar. Percy after the sidebar, Percy went on. Charlie ODELL, again, he's saying he got out on November 6th after 70 days in custody. He did tell the doctor that he was beaten 6 times in 2 days. Somebody says I'm cutting out. I don't know. It all looks good on this end. Said he was beaten down 6 times in 2 days, and at one time with brass knuckles. On 2/8 of 13, he had an interview with Corey Brown. He talked about his cars at the Cooley residence. He had an interview with Corey Brown. He talked about the cars at the Cooley residence. The Tome light in the Monte Carlo, he said, always stayed on because the doors were heavy, quote unquote. And in the other car, the Intrepid, there was no lights on that at all, but in the Corey Brown's report, the Intrepid is the one that had the lights on. So he's saying opposite of what the report said. He was reading the transcript. At this time, it was late in the day. There were still some questions and by the judge on some things. And at 4:02, the jury was sent out. So we had a little better day today than we had yesterday. So as far as the jury in the courtroom, there was another witness that was brought in to be called back tomorrow afternoon. So the jury was ordered back at 9 o'clock tomorrow, and they started talking some scheduling. When they do that, they go off the record. They talk about scheduling and other things. It gets extremely confusing, and it doesn't do any good, and I left. It's what I normally do. So that's where we're at. Charlie ODELL has little people problem, but he says he's also concerned about his family, and he got beat down 6 times in 2 days or some stuff like that. So some of them he's saying that happened over a several day period. Then he went to the hospital, but he got out on November 6th and went to the hospital on November 7th. So we'll let them figure it out as we go along here. So that's all I got. I did have an email from somebody. Let me check real quick. Oh my God, be on the lookout. He forgot to say the midget was, no, I'm not going to say that. Come on. You know better than that. Hold on. Yeah, there's and so that's it's seriously he's getting beat up by midgets and everything else. Apparently, it was a miraculous database search by Steve Jacobson that discovered this gentleman's name that was running around while everybody else was beating him. He was running around and then stabbed him in the back once. So. All right, that's all I got. Remember, I have anybody have any other messages or let me know. I was just checking another message. Okay, I have a PayPal button at the bottom of every report, and don't forget my sponsors, Doug Maynor, attorney at law, Merced Tile Supply down in Merced. Both good guys, really take care of you. It's been a long day for me because I had to get up really early this morning, and I'm kind of in a haze right now. So I hope I made sense to you a little bit, somewhat. So that's all I got. Anybody have any questions? Please feel free to email me. Please feel free to send messages on Facebook, on Dawgs Blog Facebook page, my personal page, notifications, whatever you want to do, that's okay. And that's all I got. Remember what I said. Don't take my word for it. Come to court and find out for yourself. Good night, everybody.